That's a C-350 Centurion. Unfortunately, someone stole the badges off of it. I'll make some new ones out of billet one of these days. Got the ever popular, all powerful 176 horsepower 460. Not only did it not get out of its own way, it's only got like 7 miles a gallon. But she's a very rust-free truck, actually. It's pretty decent. Being an Eastern Oregon truck, actually. Time to get back to work here. Okay, here we are back with our Centurion that we're working on here at Skies. And we're doing our FSR OB002 Shackle Reversal kit. I'll go over the bolts here in a minute and everything that we've done so far, where we're at with this project. It's nothing major. We're not doing a coil swap or anything like that. This is pretty simple, standard, straightforward. Basically easy if you take your time and follow the directions to install kit. So I'm going to go over some hardware basics here, some of the parts we've got on. Okay, so the key component of this kit is obviously the front hanger, which we have on and in place. You have to put the frame plates through behind here, weld it in, and first there's one alignment hole, which will be the 5/8 bolt. That is where your frame sleeve will go through. If you have a 4-wheel drive, basically looks like a mushroom. If you have a 2-wheel drive, it is straight through. We are working on a template for the 2x guys to figure this out. I think a key point's going to be like from here to here. We'll get you that guy right there so you have a basic idea, and then maybe we'll get you something from the top down to here so you can use a speed square to figure out where that hole needs to be. But anyway, we got our 5/8 bolt through, got our 1/2 inch full bolt through, got our 9/16 bolt for the leaf spring through. You're going to have a couple more bolts once you put the bumper bracket on, if you're running a bumper bracket. Some of these trucks still use the front frame horns here. Some use a bracket on the sides as well. So that all depends on your model. But cooking right along on this project, which is a little side thing. We're putting the 96, I believe is what that came out of, ball joint 60 under this truck for this mock-up. Eventually, it's going to be going with a different axle altogether in the next video that we'll be doing. We're going to cover everything here. So, what we have on the rear, we have replaced factory shackle hanger. This is the standard shackle hanger. This is actually the wrong side, but either way, that normally goes up where the FSSH is at currently that we'll start installing. And this is an addition to the kit. Normally, budget-based, we'll use the factory hanger. We'll cut them to basically look like these. This truck, they weren't in too bad a shape. A lot of times they're rusted out, and it's just easier to knock them out and put new stuff in. So all 1/2 inch bolts on the frame. Still got a couple put in the rear. Our 9/16 bolts for the shackle and the shackle hanger. These are a crusty old set of the factory style springs. These actually came off this truck. So they've got the pads in the front that work right. We've got the old anti-scrub pads. So if you turn too sharp, your 35s don't hit your springs and make a bunch of noise. And it's also got the isolation pads in the back here, which are kind of rare around the military. So anyhow, we're going to keep going, get the axle under this thing, and tomorrow we should have some shocks on it, and it should be sitting on the ground. So we're out from here. All right, here's our track bar bracket. This is the factory one. We're using it for reference right now. Anyhow, that is it. It's down to the axle over here. And the reason that you have to change this is because it can't be at that much of an angle like it is. And if you fail to change that and keep it like that, this truck is going to drive awful. So we're going to put our out bracket on and get this thing a little closer to where we hope the steering will be. Okay, this is kind of a tech tip thing that I've run into a million times on these older Fords. Take the bottom shock mount right here. And even though we drop the hangers, the front, rear the same, these sit at about 6 degrees different from factory. So that mount isn't on the same plane as that mount. And I've actually had to shim these with a steel pinion shim before to make this work. Basically welded it on. So if you've got shocks that have really stiff bushings or something and not a rubber bushing, and it's not an hourglass bushing, if it's an hourglass, you should be fine because they're meant to take angles. But if it's a really stiff bushing shock, you're going to want to take into account you may have to shim this. I've had some people that have actually just bent the tabs a little bit and made it work. I don't know if that's really the greatest way to do it. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Anyhow, we're going to move on here to the track bar. All right, we're back onto the Centurion project here. We've got our Dana 60 with our shiny chrome diff cover shoved up under here. We're going to install a drop track bar bracket that is an additional part to this kit because we're using a snowplow spring, which is the heavier springs the OBS trucks had. And there's a little shim on these springs also. So it's going to be about a 3 1/4 lift over factory. Once we get the track bar drop bracket on there, we're going to set this thing down. We're going to cover the tools needed to do the job, any quirks that you may run across along the way. And at that point, we will be on to brake lines, shocks, things of that nature. So once again, track bar drop bracket is the next stage. Okay, back at the Centurion, we have got this thing on the ground. We are going to go over a quick view from the side and a quick underview and call her good from there. So, once again, this is our FSR OB002 kit. This uses the OBS Springs. That's any length of spring that's a 52 from 1980 all the way through 97. And this truck we did equip with a snowplow spring, so it does have a little more lift than normal. But the key component here is that track bar kit. You can see it behind the axle there. It is going to put the track bar basically exactly in line with the axle, which is the best way to have this. Other than that, shackle angled back a little bit there. Got her tire and the fender well decently. I have to get an overall view here. Squeeze it in between a couple of our other projects. Pull this thing outside. Get a good level view of it here at some point in a bit. Okay, we're going to go into what tools are needed for this project. That'll be the final portion of this video, basically. Covered basically anything and everything that can be from here. All right, so at this point, we're going to cover the tools needed to install the FSR OB kit on the Centurion truck here. And at that point, we will be pretty much done with this video. Get out of the way. There we go. I can see everything. Yep. Shackle reversed. Okay, we're going to go get some tools laid on the table here, give you guys the rundown on what you need, and follow up with the full video and an instruction sheet for this. Then on to the next one. All right, so in closing, what we're going to cover is the tools needed to install the FSR OB002 kit from Sky's Off-Road Designs. Pretty simple overall. The frame brackets get welded in. You're going to need a welder. You're going to need a grinder. Grinders to clean up the frame so you can weld the brackets in. If you don't have a welder, you can find someone with one or have a shop do it. Okay, super key component here is a strap because you're going to have to pull the front end back or side to side. If you're trying to do this in your driveway on a jack stand, it's really difficult. It can be done. Thousands of people have done it. Good luck. Rivet gun, air chisel. This is to get any of the rivets off the frame to hold things in. There is the factory brackets on the four-wheel drives that are riveted into the frame that you'll replace with the frame bracket. That's not right. Okay, we'll do that again. Air chisel, rivet removal tool. This is only really going to be necessary if you are removing the factory rear shackle hangers and doing the FSH002 kit, high clearance shackle hangers. The rivets. This will save you a million times the investment. And you can use it for all kinds of cool stuff. Alignment tool, pry bar, chisel, hammer. This is basically just line everything up. Dead blow hammer. Shouldn't need any more than this to get everything to fit. Got a 7/8 wrench. It's going to be on the large side of the bolts, and the 5/8 bolts that go through the front frame. 3/4 wrench, 3/4 socket, 13/16 wrench, 13/16 socket, and 15/16 with 15/16 socket. One thing we don't have here that we normally would is the impact to run all this, but maybe you don't have one. So if you're using hand tools, those are the basics you're going to need. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. SkyFloppRoadDesign.com. If you have any questions or comments, let us know. See if we can fill you in.